Good afternoon, people. Good evening, good morning, whatever time it is with you around the world. Thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of Angela's Caches. I don't have a guest today because I want to find a balance between looking outside of myself and looking within. I think that's important, and I think it's easy to get kind of swept up into trying to see everything outside of ourselves. So, and also there's so much of my own history that I have not disclosed or attended to or forwarded. So I'm just going to experiment with every other week. We'll be like on the couch, not too formal, and just catching up. Having said that, it's quite an important day well, there's something always important, but for those of you who've been following the Hampstead case since it went viral online in February 2015, so almost a year and a half, today is the first day of trial by jury, as outrageous as that sounds, of 2 of the campaigner advocates like myself, actually much longer in the field than myself. That's Sabine McNeil and Neelu Berry. I'm going to share a video update that Neelu did yesterday. Although as the case is unfolding, that's out of date now, but it's still worth sharing, and then I'll update you the update to that. So it is a unfolding story, and I'd urge anybody interested in children exposing and ending child abuse, corruption, shining a light on it, exposing evil. I mean, nobody wants to spend their life on that, but certainly I think every human being with a conscience wants to spend some of their time on that. So we won't spend all the show on that. I've asked Biggie to give me a 40-minute prompt for a break, and then 40 minutes later another prompt for a break, because no single one of us can actually do this on our own. I think this is part of the beauty of broadcasting, is because no man is an island. And the more of us that do something, anything, the less burden it needs to feel like. It certainly probably feels very heavy on the shoulders of Sabine and Neelu today. They've been extremely brave. Sabine is either coming up 72 or almost, I think she's coming up 72 with a disability from a very, very severe car crash. And she's been campaigning in this field for decades. I know there's been accusations thrown around of her being disinfo or shill or COINTELPRO, all those terms, but I haven't found her such. So I take people as I find them, and I think the best of them, unless the worst is put under my nose. The same with Belinda. I've stayed at Belinda's, as a lot of people know, for 5 days, and I found her to be honest and devoted to ending child abuse and corruption, forced adoptions and child stealing and whatever. I just feel that she's devoted not only her inheritance but her life, her home. And she too fled to exile for a while over the Hampstead case. I'm going to meander. I'm not going to put myself in a rush, because I'm just going to spend 2 hours with you, and I'd appreciate you giving me your time. And I actually want to pray as well. Kev Baker did a show on Friday, Freaky Friday, on Truth Frequency Radio, and he pre-advertised it as a Hampstead update and scheduled some guests that had done a lot of research. And what happened was his internet crashed, and their internet crashed, and their Skype crashed. They had to, get new. It's chaos. So I didn't do that. I didn't pre-advertise. And I feel peaceful, and we've got, CCN is very well set up in terms of encryptions and so on. But I'm still just going to say a prayer, because for a lot of people in the circles of campaigning, exposing corruption, standing up to the machine, whistleblowing, speaking out, it can be dangerous. So a psalm, just my favourite psalm for protection, if you bear with me. I know not everybody shares my faith. I'm not religious, but I'm just going to say a psalm that I pray for protection. So it's Psalm 91, and I mostly know it. If I don't, I'll hop up and get my Bible. But we who dwell in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Together with my household, I'll say of the Lord, he's our refuge and our fortress, our God, in him will we trust. Surely he shall deliver us from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover us with his feathers, and under his wings shall we trust. His truth shall be our shield and buckler. We shall not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flies by day, nor for the deadly pestilence that walks in darkness, nor for the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at our side, 10,000 at our right hand, but it shall not come near us. Only with our eyes shall we behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because we made the Lord even our refuge, the Most High our habitation, there shall no evil befall us, neither shall any plague come near our dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over us to keep us in all our ways. They shall bear us up in their hands, lest we dash our foot against a stone. We shall tread upon the lion and the adder, the young lion and the dragon shall we trample underfoot. Because they've set their love upon me, therefore will I deliver them, says the Lord. I will set them on high because they've known my name. They will call on me and I will answer them. I will be with them in trouble. I will deliver them and honour them. And with long life will I satisfy them and show them my salvation. So that's just when I need to remind myself that everything's fine. And I pray that for everybody that's putting their head above the parapet and just going the extra mile, and taking risks for the sake of doing the right thing. So Sabine at 71 was arrested 3 or 4 times, including at midnight, horrendous conditions in the cell, and just very, very traumatizing. Neelu's been arrested and held even, I think, over 5 days or something. She had her door bashed down on one arrest. She won a court case, and it was in the Hampstead and Highgate Gazette, or whatever they call themselves. It was in there that she was cleared of vexing a clergyman or some bizarre 16th century law that they tried to wheel out to intimidate. And basically, the upside down world we live in, since the children's disclosures, 24 video disclosures and more have come out since, and then the apparent retractions, which was so brutal to listen to, that police facilitated. Since then, I lost my chain of thought. Anyway, well, it doesn't matter, it'll come back to me. So anyway, Neelu, was arrested and held, and Sabine was arrested and had her passport taken, had to turn up for bail, couldn't carry on her normal work of just campaigning on several fronts, Belinda, that's what I was going to say, because Belinda, there's a few policemen that Neelu's raised questions about who are they and what's their credentials. But there's a policeman in Hampstead that seems to feature quite a lot with the, what I would call intimidation of whistleblowers. And at one stage he went to Belinda, who lives in Highgate, and said, I can't guarantee your safety, I can't guarantee your safety. And to say that to a grandmother, that's just working tirelessly to do the right thing, to make a better world for the future, for our children and grandchildren, I don't think that's right. So anyway, she left the country for a couple of months and then came back because her daughter needed her. and it doesn't make sense. We're not the ones that have done anything wrong, in my opinion. So I'm going to share as well over this time some of the harassment I've had, which has been intense, you know, and the threats I've had and the impact it's had on my children, and just the lengths to which whoever they are, shall we say, are going to stop this proper investigation, which we've all been asking for since, well, publicly since February 2015. Just a proper investigation. That's all we ask for, a proper, honest investigation. And for things that have been done illegally and without due process, and to be explained and reversed and corrected. So, as I say, Neelu and Sabine were due in court for trial by jury. I'm hoping for a live up-to-date through the show, but that may or may not be possible. You can understand it's pretty intense. But I will obviously update on my Facebook ongoingly, and you know, also I'm sure Neelu will, and Sabine is updating regularly on her blog, which I'm going to read from as well. So yeah, so today it began, and I think it's a good time to play Neelu's video of Sunday, if you could do that, Biggie. This is Neelu, one of the two campaigners and whistleblowers that was summoned to Blackfriars Court. And before we do that, actually, I just want to say that, yes, she has won court cases in the past, and they just keep moving the goalposts and changing the changing the charges and everything. To me, it's just a way to intimidate whistleblowers, not alleged paedophiles. Okay, Biggie.
Hello everybody, I'm Neelu Berry. Today's Sunday, the 10th of July 2016. We've had a look at the listings for the trial tomorrow, the 11th of July, in the Blackfriars Crown Court, and apparently it now says that this case has been changed to a paper file. What that means is that the judge is going to deal with it on his own with the papers behind closed doors. So there is no jury, there is no trial of myself and Sabine. We will not be allowed in the courtroom, and no supporters will be allowed in the courtroom, and there will be no need for a jury because me and Sabine will not be inside the courtroom. So we have to work backwards to try and work out what's happened here. I'm just going to try and explain my lay understanding of it. So we had said that because of the jurisdiction being in the High Court, there was no jurisdiction in the Blackfriars Crown Court, and if any judge was to sit, they would be assuming the authority of the higher court, which is very serious breach of judicial procedures. So they've honoured our request to deal with the corruption case that's filed in the High Court, which is my claim. This is it. I'll just show you. So that was filed on the 6th. There's the seal there, and that is for it's an arbitrary amount anyway, and that's the, you know, I read it out in my last. I'm just showing that that's the claim, which is HQ 16XO2369, and this was filed on the 5th of July. It was served on Blackfriars on the 6th of July. So the Blackfriars have taken note of this. The fact that Master Yoxel, who's a higher authority than the Blackfriars Crown Court, is now dealing with this issue. So because we had said that any any trial of me and Sabine would be more further evidence of corruption, that they need to focus on the police investigation of the allegations made by the children. So that is still pending since September 2014. And everything that's been done since that time has to be reversed in order to get to the truth of what goes on. So we need to protect the witnesses. Myself and Sabine are now protected because of the paperwork that's been filed in the High Court, and the children are protected. So the children, the Hampstead 2 and the Enfield 6, would need to be protected, and they need to be in the UK to give evidence of what this is all about. What is this powerful paedophile protection, fraud, corruption, and how it's dealt with, and who deals with it, and who's behind it, and how they do this, how they punish innocent members of the public, whistleblowers, researchers, witnesses, and reality, and then they put it all on them that they're the criminals, whilst the real criminals are out there at large doing whatever they like. So I take this as a new contract between us and Blackfriars Crown Court, for the Blackfriars Crown Court to do what we've required them to do to end the corruption. So, you know, the documentation is very simple. So the claim form was filed on the 5th of July. Prior to that, actually, on the 1st of June, Sabine had filed her own claim form for corruption of the powerful paedophile protection frauds. And that was dealt with by Master Fontaine. So that was the very first, prior to that, there was the Adrian Taylor powerful paedophile protection fraud claim filed in the Master Support Unit. So that was first, then Sabine, then myself. I'm number 3. And the only difference is that because of myself being actual aunt of a baby, and being a professional pharmacist and being an expert witness in some cover-ups of baby deaths in the NHS, I've basically been able to convince the High Court that, you know, this is like not just anyone being delusional. I've got evidence to back up what it is that I'm alleging. So in any case, the other cases are still ongoing anyway, so we're all going to add up. So these will be either the test cases or the hub cases, and that all the other cases will attach to. So now we're going to get the cooperation of the Crown Courts, and I understand that Peter Hofstra's case has also become now a paper case this morning as we checked the listing. So I don't know how the listings got changed over the weekend, but they got changed. So I don't want to repeat the paperwork that's happened, but so the 6th of July, the Blackfriars Crown Court was served with the jurisdiction test. So that would be the document that they'll be going through tomorrow morning, which gives basically it gives protection to the witness. It dismisses the witness intimidation case, and we get an order, that's number 5, witness intimidation case dismissal order for citizens Miss Berry and Mrs. McNeil against the state. So that really means the CPS and police must back off, and then the corruption claims, that is Sabine's, which are 16XO 1930 and 31, and mine HQ 16XO 2369, corruption claims, liability defendant status finding, and superior jurisdiction protection finding, conflict disqualification finding, remedy jurisdiction limit finding, protection breach finding, justice perversion finding, contempt finding, fraud finding, conspiracy finding, remedy entitlement finding, remedy priority finding for the citizen and Parliament. So the Royal Commission was set up by Parliament to wipe out corruption in public service. And these claims, these recent claims, are the final squeeze of the powerful paedophile protection frauds. And what is being required of the Blackfriars Crown Court is that the High Court has superior jurisdiction, that there's a remedy entitlement, a remedy priority finding for me and Sabine. That means whatever we require, because the state has basically been acting fraudulently, that whatever me and Sabine require, which is a remedy of the forced adoptions and child abductions and child trafficking and crimes against babies and children in public service, that we are entitled to all the remedies that we seek. So Blackfriars Crown Court will not be participating in the frauds by the CPS and police, and they will be required by the courts to do the right thing, the honourable thing, which is to investigate the allegations made by the children without misleading Judge Pawley by saying to her that a police investigation has taken place when it hasn't. So Sabine and I will be having all our remedies provided for us. And the Blackfriars Crown Court will not be participating in the fraud of the police and the CPS. The police and the CPS will be required to remedy all our grievances of all the parents, whistleblowers, researchers, and witnesses, okay? And they'll be protected and they'll be honoured, and whatever they say will not be laughed at or taken lightly or covered up. They will be investigated seriously, because the Enfield 6 case proves the extent to which the police and CPS go to fabricate evidence, incriminate by lies parents and homes, and traffic children abroad out of the UK. And the only logical reason why these children they're attempting, or they may have already done so, but trying to fly these children to Cyprus, and the Cyprus authorities have been informed about these children, and the reason why they've been trafficked is because they are witnesses to the London Borough Barnet child abuse investigation team being actually participating in the crimes against babies and children of child stealing, child trafficking, torture of children, child abuse. The children have said they want to be at home with their loving mother. And these are 6 children, 3 girls, 3 boys, aged 6 to 13. And these children have been, they're Cypriot, and they've been trafficked by a Turkish social worker. So there's political trafficking going on. And the police, from start to finish, are behind this, from fabricating the evidence of future emotional harm to interviewing them, and then, fraud in the paperwork, lies, and the family courts, the judges, all the judges involved in their trafficking, and that's all going to be dealt with as part of this powerful paedophile protection fraud, because mother has given evidence of the fraud by the police and the CPS, in the family courts, and that evidence will now be reviewed as to why the judges and the courts did not do the right thing, which was to return the 6 children to their loving mother. And then the Hampstead 2 children, the remedy sought there is that obviously the 2 children should be with their loving mother at home. You know, that family was destroyed, and the mother was terrorised out of the country, so she would be protected as a witness to the powerful paedophile protection frauds, where they used these 2 children in these satanic rituals at the church and the school. Well, allegedly, and that hasn't been investigated, and the fact that hasn't been investigated means that the police and CPS decided not to investigate those allegations in order to continue the crimes against babies and children in public service. So the child abuse investigation team would not be able to be involved in the investigation, because they would cover it up, because 16 police officers are actually involved allegedly with the actual rituals, and so there are issues around the 2 children, the Hampstead children, that need to be resolved. The mother needs protection, the boyfriend needs protection for them to come and give evidence in the High Court or in the higher than the High Court, so that we can get to the bottom of the, to end the powerful paedophile protection frauds. And those frauds also then, once they're exposed, that will expose the other frauds, which are the land frauds, planning frauds, credit frauds, banking, finance frauds, and drug dealing frauds. So what we'll do tomorrow, we'll all gather outside the Blackfriars Crown Court building. There will be cameramen out there, but try to find our own cameramen rather than mainstream cameramen. And just, if you have things to say, like, if you want to give evidence of your own councils where you believe that the similar things have happened to you, and if you want to become like local council, collaborators for the cases in your area, if you have a collection of cases, then we'll be able to, you can give a summary of those cases, and then the public will become aware of the particular councils that are most problematic, and we'll do it in reverse order according to, where the biggest problems are. And so we can latch it into the High Court case, all the cases, and obviously the remedies will be provided, because once it's established that there is this network in these 2 cases, the Hampstead 2 and the Enfield 6, that these children will be protected and to give evidence, then we'll require other councils to remedy the children, and those children will be protected to give evidence against the councils where their crimes have been committed in a similar way to these 2 cases. So it will be a case of collecting the cases on one single sheet of paper, and maybe reading out not the children's names, not their first names, but just calling it like the Birmingham 2 or the, using the initials. That's okay. So if you look out for, our own cameramen, there'll be David, and just, take things forward in your own locality, and just say, if you have any comments about the Hampstead case or the Enfield 6 case, then just put that on the video as well. Or if you were going to give any evidence as witnesses regarding any other cases of powerful paedophile protection frauds that would be linked to the High Court, then please do so. to the cameraman outside. So that'll be Blackfriars Crown Court. Nearest station is Southwark on the Jubilee line, and it's a 5-minute walk, and you basically come out of the station, go straight and turn right, or go right and then turn left into Pocock Street and walk right to the other end. And the cameramen will be outside because they're not allowed inside the building. So if you don't need to be inside the courtroom, come and you want to give interview, just come outside, give your interview, and then go back in. So feel free to, if the cameramen are free to go out and pop out and record something, and that will all be archived as a snapshot of what's happening at this moment in time in the UK. So we'll keep it positive. It's not about the problems now, it's about the remedies. Let's just focus on the remedies that we seek and what the suggestion is. So for example, the remedy we seek for the 2 Hampstead children is for their return to their loving mother, for the mother to be protected, for her to return to the UK, for the boyfriend to be protected, and for them to be provided with accommodation where they can be safe and comfortable until they're required to give evidence, and then they can be assisted to live in the country of their choice where they feel safe. So it the remedies that you require it does also involve accommodation, security, safety, and protection, and production of witnesses to the trial. Or if you're not even going to be in the country to come in person to give evidence, you can just make it an affidavit. You can make an affidavit on paper, or you can do it on video. So if you want to give it on a video tomorrow, your affidavit of your remedy that you seek, feel free to do that as well. So it's a legal process because we've been denied the remedy so far since September 2014. This is our opportunity to demand our remedies through the powerful paedophile corruption claim in the High Court. So that's HQ16 XO2369 is mine, and then Sabine's was, let me find it, HQ16 XO1930 and 31. And that's mine is Neelu Berry versus Secretary of State for Justice, Blackfriars Crown Court Resident Judge Hillen, High Court Master Fontaine, High Court Actions Officer or Master DM Baggett. And then there will be added the Queen and the Prime Minister to that as well. And I guess the Beans are similar defendants as well. So that's it really. So we're not going to be allowed inside courtroom 2. Judge Worsley is going to be sitting on his own with the paperwork. There will be no jury. Sabine and I will not be allowed in the courtroom. So that just means there is no trial of me and Sabine, and that the judge is going to be looking at the paperwork. That's the documents that have been served on the court on the 6th of July, which is the jurisdiction test notice that the Blackfriars Crown Court does not have jurisdiction in that to deal with this at this time until the corruption has been dealt with in the High Court, and thereafter will be protected from any harm. All witnesses in the Hampstead case and the Enfield case will be protected from harm by order of the High Court, by order of the Crown Courts. And they'll stop the children from leaving the country, or if the parents have run away, they will enable the parents to return to England and be protected, parent and boyfriend, and it will be returning the 2 children to their loving mother in the Hampstead case, returning the 6 children to their loving mother in the Enfield case, and returning all children that have been trafficked by police and CPS and child protection services and the child abuse investigation teams that are all over the UK. By the way, they have different names, and so the corruption, the powerful paedophile protection frauds, frauds will be dealt with in the corruption case, so that would give remedies to all family related crimes and frauds. Okay, I think that's all really.
Okay, guys, thank you for your patience in listening to that. And it's a sign of how fast moving this is that it was updated this morning. That was last night that was put up. And I'll just read you the update from this morning. And it's no surprise really, because just like my guest last week, John Irwin, talked about, surprise is a much used tactic, and it really is like a psychological warfare thing going on, this information and propaganda and counter information and confusion and so on. It's definitely tactical. So I'll just read you what Neelu posted this morning, and then I'll read you Sabine's blog, and then we'll take it just step by step. This is complicated, but it's hugely important. So I'm very low tech. I didn't put these on the dashboard, but I'll just read you. So Neelu wrote this morning, Hampstead whistleblower trial is going ahead with a jury. The confusion arose due to listing fraud. They are now listing cases as paper cases to mean that they are not electronic cases, but hard copies. Now we know in law, a paper case is a case which is done on paper, in camera, behind closed doors, without a hearing or a jury. Listings did not want supporters to come, so caused the confusion. Apologies if you cancelled your trip to London, Blackfriars Court. It's on at 10:30 a.m, Court 2. That was today, and it's expected to go on. Well, Ben Fellowes' farce for trial in the, I think it was the Old Bailey or Southwark, went on for 2 weeks before he was acquitted, and everything was just... Anyway, so I'll just continue to read what Neelu wrote. Yeah, so 10 this morning, Court 2, Blackfriars Court, Blackfriars Crown Court, 1 to 15 Pocock Street, London, SE1. Oh, my eyesight's terrible. OBH, I think it says. Nearest tube is Southwark on the Jubilee line. Please share, please sign the petitions to show the judges that you do care for the whistleblowers, for babies and for children. So I might have shared previously that, well, I did share very briefly and fleetingly that the update I got before my first show was children are in fact not fully reassigned to their father, which some predicted amongst the campaigners, but they're still in foster care, but that he has open and free access. He can take them for weekends, he can take them on holiday, he can basically go and collect them whenever he wants. So I'm just going to read Sabine's blog update from Sunday. I wish none of the spotlight was on the campaigners, the whistleblowers, those working, for coming up a year and a half trying to get this case out and trying to get the children the justice they deserve, especially for their mind-blowing courage in disclosing in such agonising detail. Their disclosures have been taken down massively. One of my videos, just not even with the children's disclosures in it, but a video I made about the Hampstead case in March last year, YouTube advised me it was not viewable in the UK anymore because of a government complaint. So what's the government doing making complaints about the Hampstead case, if they don't have a vested interest in keeping a lid on it? So I wish it wasn't about Sabine or Neelu or the harassment I've suffered and so many others have suffered. I wish it was about, this is what's happening, this is when the investigation's being reopened, these are the things that the establishment have acknowledged were not properly done, this is what the IPCC, the International Police Complaints Commission, have said, and so on. But we just have to pick away at this like a tapestry until it unravels, and I just covet your prayers, your actions, and your attention. Keep the spotlight on this. It hasn't gone away. So I'll read you briefly. This is Sabine McNeil's update. So she has a petition on change.org. EU Parliament abolish adoptions without parental consent. She was banned. Part of her bail conditions was that she was not allowed to address the Hampstead case. It hasn't stopped her working. She's tireless. She doesn't have children of her own, but she spends probably up to 18 hours a day working to try and get justice for children. She was actually in the Dresden bombing. Her mother was in the Dresden bombing, and little known fact is that the rape was used as a weapon of war, and just hundreds and hundreds of women were raped in the aftermath of World War II in the bombing. And her mother fled with her, more or less with her as a baby in arms, to get her to safety. And, some people, lovers or haters, have to sort of step up and say, I was born for such a time as this. I want to make my mother's sacrifice worthwhile in terms of Sabine. So I'll read you. So this is an update to the petition. Change.org, EU Parliament abolish adoptions without parental consent. And this update from Sunday says, what do the Hampstead 2 and the Enfield 6 have in common? Sadly, it's Barnet Police, who are not too far behind the Metropolitan Police and the Yorkshire Police in terms of documented corruption cover-up. So it says tomorrow, this has been written yesterday, Neelu Berry, just Google her name or go to hampsteadchristchurch.com/Neelu, as she was arrested together with the publisher of that site, will have to be in court to Blackfriars Court at 10:30. I published 6 witness statements relating to her case in April 2015. There's a link for that. On the 11th of January 2016, I got accused of having conspired or agreed with Neelu to intimidate quote-unquote witnesses who actually are alleged abusers named by the then 8 and 9-year-old children at the centre of the Hampstead case. However, police used these quote-unquote witnesses to bring us supporters of children's rights behind bars. In fact, on the occasion of one hearing in Blackfriars, the mother of the Enfield 6 recognised police who had come to support us. Why would police who took her children be interested in how our hearing went? Here's the complete report. I'll share this link when Biggie uploads this for YouTube with archives on CCN. I will share this link in there. And here's the executive summary. Case A, 2 children, this is Hampstead, 2 children accused their father of being the leader of a cult. One in the summer of 2014, 2 children aged 9 and 8 went on holiday with their mother. Away from home, they managed to tell her that their father had been abusing them and other children in their school and the associated church as the leader of a cult. 2, out of concern for the other children, the mother took them as witnesses to Barnet Police Station, where they were interviewed. 6 days later, they were re-interviewed, and this time they were removed from their mother, with whom they'd lived all their lives. And just not in defence of Barnet Police, but having worked on this myself as well from last February, I think there was an attempt by Barnet Police to do the right thing, which is the first good thing they did was organise a medical examination by a very well-respected consultant, Dr. Hodes, who could have saved, arguably, baby P's life. She was ignored when she flagged probable sexual abuse in his case. But Barnet Police did do that, and then my understanding is that they were overruled and the case was taken over by the Met. So that's worth looking into. That's not to exonerate or to say that Barnet police have not since behaved badly, because they have. So then it says number 3, after another 6 days, the children gave a retraction, quote unquote, interview, found by a professional analyst to be extremely flawed. Yet the case was closed with crime not confirmed as the reason. 4, Judge Vera Mayer transferred the case from Barnet Family Court to the High Court, where Mrs. Justice Anna Porfley ruled on the 19th of March 2015 that the children's testimonies were in the realms of fantasy, police interviews less than professional, and that the estimated 4 million viewers of their videos would have sexual interests. I mean, that's just horrendous. I think the disclosures have been viewed by at least 40 million at this stage, but one of the shocking things that the judge said was anybody who was looking into the Hampstead case were either evil or perverted, I think were the words she used. It was quite shocking. And the other shocking thing was that she had not had sight of the original disclosures, I believe, which were locked away in a police storage shed somewhere without her being informed, although the father seemed to have knowledge of them. And also, I believe the medical reports were either withheld from her or changed, from Dr. Hode saying there was corroborative indication of what the children were alleging to inconclusive. No grounds for Dr. Hode's having said that, and no cooperation in validating the fact that she did not say that. She said the opposite. So 5, the mother fled for fear of imprisonment by a secret family court. The children remain in care and have regular contact with their father, unsupervised, extended. 6, internet supporters are being slandered and defamed, myself included. And 3 have been arrested and charged. 1 has returned to the US. 2 others are currently on trial. That's Neelu and Steve. Another one that was amazing with research gathering and disseminating and facilitating professionals that were volunteering from all over the world. She went by Jackie Farmer. She had credible death threats. She was tracked. She worked from outside the country to continue and to be safe and keep whistleblowing. And she was tracked down. And that was from on the inside, because nobody except for Immigration Department, which had to grant a visa, nobody had her address, and yet she was tracked down. So there's been some absolute, stars risking their lives working on this. So 2 submissions regarding the case have been made to the EU Petitions Committee. And then the other case, which has bizarrely got some things in common, is being referred to as the Enfield 6. So that's it. That's a good summary, although there's much more to it, but that's good. So with the other case, which only randomly got compared to because of the same people, the same police showing up at court, just as this Paul Spears, DC Paul Spears of Hampstead, seems to keep popping up. Before I forget, another youngster that was campaigning awesomely, he's only in his 20s, Jake Clark, did a couple of interviews with me about how he just contacted me and said, can I do an interview with you? I want to help. What can I do? And we did 2 or 3 sort of updates on Hampstead and reached probably, 500 views on each video. But he got invited to go and have a chat. I don't know whether it was Barnet Police or whatever. I believe DC Spears was there. And they said to him, if you say it was Angela Power Disney made you say what you said, we'll just let you off with a caution. But if not, you're going to end up going to trial for intimidation of witnesses. And fair play to him. He said, I'm not saying anybody made me speak up. I did that myself. So thank you for that, Jake. And so in regard to the Enfield 6, hopefully lose a sense of time when I'm doing this show, so I hope you do too and enjoy it. Right. Yeah, no, here we go. Forgive me for So this is now putting side by side the Enfield 6 case. This is the children accused there. No, that's one I just covered. I could see this one. Case B, here we go. 6 children are set against their mother by their father. 1. In summer 2014, a British mother of 6 children filed for divorce proceedings. 2. Prompted by their Greek Cypriot father, the children made hopeless calls to the police, who promptly arrested the mother and forced her to leave the home, leaving father to look after the children. 3. The children were disturbed in father's care, and eventually the mother was permitted to return home and resume care of them. Then in February 2015, the father was arrested for violence and banned from the home. Nevertheless, the police took the children into care. So sad. Following protracted and skewed family court proceedings, which are usually secret, by the way, in England, and an abortive attempt by the mother to appeal, 4 of the children are to be sent to special guardianship in Cyprus, and 2 are to be fostered or adopted in the UK. Systemic patterns of child removal by local authorities. Having observed scores of cases as the Association of Mackenzie Friends, we have identified certain patterns and have communicated these to the EU Petitions Committee. 1, that local authorities are expected to meet adoption targets and are rewarded for removing children. This is the case in America as well, possibly Australia too. 2, as former MP John Hemming has claimed, social workers confirmed in their evidence to the MEPs who came for a fact-finding visit in November 2015, removing children is UK policy. 3, children are not heard and are regularly given to the abusive parent, as in the above case, first to the father and then to strangers. And then it says, thank you for being part of the Internet committee that was labelled evil and or foolish by Mrs. Justice Anna Poffley. In her judgment after fact-finding in her secret family court without the mother or her representative, she said that the children were in the realms of fantasy. There's a link for that. And then it says she happened to have been, and this is very interesting, Justice Anna Poffley happened to have been on duty when the mother of the Enfield 6 made an emergency application for 4 of her children not to be deported from the UK. Hence, she called the mother but put the phone down when she heard the mother use the word corruption. And then it says, blessed be the internet and the rising importance of electronic e-reputation. Anyway, so that's just as much as I know, unless I get a message during broadcast, which obviously I'll share. But even if I don't, I think that's enough to just remind ourselves that this hasn't gone away. And even though some of us get battle weary, and there's that lovely thing that when one is weary, somebody else steps up, and that's happening all the time, not just in England, Australia, in America, and we need to keep passing the baton when we get a little bit battered, either by intimidation or harassment or defamation or slander. We need to just pass the baton until we're ready to get back in the fray again. So, yeah, that's that. I want to address something as well. I believe the government is spending vast amounts of money keeping a lid on this. I think a lot of people know that the army advertised for 400 new recruits for online intelligence work. And anybody that works in this field knows that paid government trolls are very much a feature of psychological and propaganda warfare in this internet day and age. And I think as well, probably most of my listeners here are aware that internet censorship has already begun, and it can only get more severe. So we need to redeem the time. And I just want to address the issue of putting our money where our mouths are. nice way of saying that. There's a scripture that says, where your treasure is, there your heart is also. And I just implore everybody that gets their news or their follows stories this way online at no charge, I just implore that you just take a look in your heart and invest something in keeping it, the news being disseminated and getting out there. This Conscious Consumer Network, I think it's only been on the air 18 months. And it's been running on about 60 grand a year, which is unheard of. If you compare the budget to mainstream media, or even to, a high-profile independent media person put about 2 million into setting up an independent television channel. So they went off air for a day this week, and one of the directors tramped like hours and hours and hours to get equipment repaired. So that's not for pity. They love what they do, and I love what I do. But it's just, it even pricked my conscience. I even thought, right, instead of having that thought, let me put something in the repair fund. They're only about €2,000 short, but it makes the difference if television stations like this go offline, or podcasters or anybody that's working their butt off to try and keep getting this kind of truth out there. If they go off air or offline for the lack of a couple of thousand, it hurts my heart. It really, and I just, the same with Kathy Morgan, 9 months of research on the line, which is lining up with Aldous Huxley research on a different show on this channel, on different researchers across the water. Their research is lining up. I've had brilliant updates and people contact me between shows, joining more docs, particularly in Suffolk, and particularly with regard to, the whole no consent medical experiments and mad scientist social engineering that's been going on in a very intensive way since, for the last 70 years. So it's important. So CCN need a couple of grand more to fully get the equipment back up to speed. That's just, how easy would that be for the amount of viewers and listeners? Maybe I don't have to. I'm just asking people to look in their heart. If you sow a 5, or if you sow 500, whatever. If you sow 50, if you sow a tenner, I just keep harping back to the days when, I would buy an Evening Standard on the way home from work every day, on the tube, the train actually it was, or, buy my magazine at the weekend. We don't do that anymore. And I think investing in stations like this and individuals like Kathy Morgan, who still needs a laptop. She doesn't ask a lot. She just wants a laptop and to be able to keep researching for nothing, like 12 hours a day at an incredible standard. Have a look and see the way things are. Is it worth it to you personally to just invest some little part of your personal wonga in this kind of work, in these exposures of truth and evil, we're called to expose evil, to shine a light on it, and to work towards a better world for our children, our grandchildren. And we're galloping into, what to some seems like a science fiction movie, but it's not science fiction. Things are really speeding up. So I think it's just a time for us all to look at our priorities, and just, even myself, just, make the effort to say, I'm not just going to think that thought, oh, I should give a few quid. I'm actually going to do it. So thank you. I have a GoFundMe, journalism GoFundMe, and the station has an urgent need. It would be great if monthly supporters just got alongside the station and said, look, I can't do what you're doing, but I can certainly invest something in it. So that's Conscious Consumer Network. And just whichever people working in this field or whichever field is your passion, you know, put your money where your mouth is. Put something, anything. Just put something in the, you know, in the kitty. Thanks for that. So I made some notes. Let's have a look at what the time is. Oh, 6 o'clock, done an hour. And I made some notes, and I'll just see where we go. I'm on the couch today. I hope you can hear me. We've got a lovely microphone. Right. Yeah, something, gosh, I've only got so much tolerance for this. Something Neelu had asked for in the first video before it was updated, that the trial was going ahead, was for others who've been intimidated and harassed for covering the Hampstead case. And I was going to make a full-on affidavit to that effect. And but I think I'm going to wait, possibly. I'll see how the hour goes. I have a vast amount of evidence of most despicable, contemptible trolling online, you know, including, you know, get the bitch, and, you know, including letting me know they know the status of my children. And one very pertinent point was that the father of the alleged abuser, the father of the Hampstead 2, one of the most active fake profiles he used on Facebook is a name Gabriella Barney. And a lot of people know that was that's him. I've had it confirmed by somebody that used to believe and support him, and actually dug a little deeper and saw the truth and messaged me and said, I'm so sorry, I really thought I was doing the right thing. I really thought it was a hoax and you were a terrible person. But they confirmed that Gabriella Barney is one of the sock accounts that the father uses. And what's very unpleasant is that profile was created the day after I released a video on Mother's Day, I think it was. I'd Skyped with my daughter Gabriella and my sons and my grandchildren. My sons and I were together, and we Skyped with my daughter Gabriella. And just in the sort of lovely family Skype, which I'd shared on my personal YouTube channel, my daughter just ticked me off for kind of putting my whistleblower work before the family. And lo and behold, within 24 hours of that video going up, which they always troll, a new fake profile was created, Gabriella Barney. And, you know, and we didn't really have a Barney. It was just, you know, light-hearted words about the role of, you know, when am I a journalist and when am I a mother and when am I a grandmother. And, but what people don't see is my daughter phoning me absolutely hysterical along the way, because she thought the paedophiles had found out where she lived and were coming to get her. You know, she's 30. She was 29. She's a mother of my grandchildren, young children. And for her to be terrorized into hysteria is not okay. It's really not okay. My sons have you know, my youngest son had surgery for a disability, which is absolutely verifiable, and had his whole name dragged through the mud for their aim to discredit and smear me, and therefore discredit what I say about the Hampstead case, calling his surgery trip to Dr. Weiss in Florida for stem cell surgery, calling it a scam, that I didn't have a son with a disability, he hadn't been to Florida for surgery, and I was just a charity scammer. Well, that's my son that you dragged through that. And my older son too, terrified when I actually left the country. I left Ireland for a while because I couldn't get the police to cooperate in dealing with this vicious, malicious communications online, and you know, very perceptible, credible, what I would perceive as death threats, get the bitch, and, you know, it's only a matter of time. And yeah, they're all saved and they're all filed. I'm not going to trot them out here. And, you know, every time they try and call me a serial bullshitter or whatever, I just think of, who's that comedian? It's like Face, Bothered. You know, like, I can produce, and I have produced stuff, but it's tedious. I don't care if you believe me, you trolls. I care about the people that care about the children, and justice being served, and a proper investigation being carried out, and all the corruption being reversed. So yes, it's impacted. I left the country. You know, I phoned, I think I've said this before, I do have a crime report number now from the Irish police, but that didn't happen for months. And, you know, I'm happy to corroborate the Sabina Neelu's defence, because it should be the other way around. If we weren't so consumed with trying to help the children, we should be taking them to court for what they've put so many of us through. You know, just horrendous. And I have to, anywhere I go online, I have to warn people, you know, if I'm followed by trolls, just Google the Hampstead cover-up. I apologise, that's what they do. So that might be partly why, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so as I say, I won't do the detailed blow-by-blow disclosure until I get an update on how Blackfriars is going. You know, if it would help, I'm happy to go and corroborate the evidence being put forward by the defendants that, you know, they were doing a good thing, and it's actually them that are the victims of, you know, malicious communications and intimidation and harassment, in my opinion. So, we'll move on to the next thing. I only wrote an outline. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm going to address an awkward thing. And I hate messes, but it's worth addressing briefly. I shared in probably my first show about a targeted individual threatened, I think, for the 21st time with eviction from her council house in Poole in Dorset. I think she took a stand, not just because she's on disability. She's got an awful lot of health issues. She used to work for the council. She's a very talented artist. She's done an awful lot of things. And she's got severe disability, which don't stop her working at the moment. I think the stress it's a miracle she's still alive, really. But I think also politically she objected, as I would, to bedroom tax and even council tax. I remember, you know, I was protesting back in the 70s against Thatcher, you know, in the days of the miners' strike and the H block. And I remember also the council tax coming in, and it's up above this crazy money that people get charged these days for council tax. And then the bedroom tax, which I'm sure somebody in Europe said is illegal. But anyway, so she's being threatened with eviction for the 21st time for about 1,100 in bedroom tax, and I think the guts of $2,000 in council tax. Now it's hit a bump in the road. Her friend started to GoFundMe, and I think it got to, between that and a couple of PayPal donations, I think it got to £300, maybe a bit more. But I haven't been able to give as much attention personally to that survivor as I had promised to, offered to, wanted to. You know, I'm a survivor too, and sometimes shit happens, you know, and I just can't be all things to all men. So there was a couple of things. Somebody had given me a laptop when all my tech got stolen after starting to work exposing Hampstead. 4,500 worth of tech of mine stolen. And I was offering to pay that forward and send that laptop to help this survivor, and I absolutely paid for it to be collected by parcel to go. It was not collected. I got onto them. They made another collection promise. It still was not collected. I have emails, and I think the survivors she also got the email confirming that, this is the tracking number and you could track it. But it never got collected. And in the meantime, the trolls got to this survivor, which they often do. They chase around anybody that interacts with me to see if they can undermine their confidence and get them on board as, to execute friendly fire against me. So we've hit a blip with that. I've emailed with the council, which I've been given authority to do, and they were to give an update, and then they haven't. They've just said send a check or phone up and give card details and just pay the money over. So that's an ongoing thing, and I think the point I wanted to make was there are fallings out. I heard a brilliant interview. It was not very recent. Well, it was recent, but it wasn't this last week. Brian Clare on Ben Emlyn Jones' radio show, which is Panwo, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. And he's been campaigning for decades. He's a survivor from children's homes and a survivor of abuse by Liam Britton, and very much knowledgeable in terms of Harvey Procter, and just an absolute walking encyclopedia. And I'll say allegedly to all of that, just to cover myself from the nefarious intimidation of the victims and witnesses instead of the alleged perpetrators. But he talked about the infighting in campaigners and whistleblowers and survivors groups. And it happened to me once before, at least once before, where somebody that I'd actively advocated for and talked about and blogged about and vlogged about and prayed for and messaged with, and was turned against me as she's just out. Whatever they did. Sometimes it's like picking off the elephants at the edge of a herd. They go for somebody who's vulnerable or has trust issues, or and then they mess with their heads, and they do succeed with some of them. And I tend to just think, it's like if it gets too vicious from what I call friendly fire from survivors, I disengage, because maybe I'll get braver and I'll go and check and report all the vicious, libelous, slanderous, defamatory videos that are made about me and all the work of mine that's lifted. I slap copyright claims on them and get channels closed. But to me, that's a distraction. And but I have made attempts to reach out to this survivor that I was trying to help with a laptop and with a GoFundMe to just stop her being evicted, or even going to sleep every night thinking she's about to be evicted. I mean, it's in black and white. In fact, I spoke to Pool Council, and they got, they were going to get the press office to get back to me with an update. They didn't. I didn't even get a video update. The only time, an email update. The only time they responded was when I said, look, we've got over 300 quid sitting here, and we want to, pay it against these arrears and get a clarification update. Why are you telling a disabled tenant who used to be your co-worker, why are you saying that you're going to be evicted over bedroom tax and council tax? What's your stance and what's your justification? But so that's ongoing, and I'm going to, there's been a slanging match. There's been a slanging match, and I will invest a bit more energy in trying to resolve that. It grieves my heart when people who I regard as brave and as peers fall out with me. That hurts. So, but at the same time, I'm not going to be masochistic about it. If I reach out, however imperfectly, if I reach out and try and help somebody and keep getting bashed, not physically, but then at some point I would just say, cut and move on, kind of thing. So that's that. I'll keep you posted on that, and I'd like we need to, don't sweat the small stuff. For me, if somebody's abusing children or covering up people that are abusing children, and worse, snuff movies, trafficking, prostituting, captivating in cults. Use your energy, use your passion, your anger against those things. And if we fall out, just let's deal with it. Let's not, I don't want to spend energy fighting somebody who's not my enemy. And at the end of the day, even, I get it hard to say this, but I do feel uncomfortable when I see some survivors or even sympathisers with the ending child abuse movement saying, oh, castrate them or lock them up, throw the key away, or, hang them or whatever. Although I understand that, it makes me uncomfortable and it doesn't solve it. And I think it was Chris Costa on the Kev Baker show Friday, in Chris, or it may have been Sonia, made a very good point that according to the children's own testimony, their father is a member of a generationally satanic abusive family. They talked about their grandmother. They talked about his grandmother. They talked about him preparing them to carry on the family tradition. And I've talked a little bit about the 5 generations thus far uncovered of abuse and perpetration, either victims or perpetrators in my own family. It's much more common than people think. So, yes, in my finer moments, I can feel even for Ricky Dearman and say, you didn't ask to be born into this, and it's not too late for any perpetrators anywhere to stop. It's scary to think of, the whole world, and I do believe millions are following this case worldwide. It's scary as hell to think of the whole world knowing if you stepped up and said, actually, it's true, and I'm willing to expose the other 70 plus alleged abusers, not for a deal, but because it's the right thing to do. It's never too late to stop this. And even though it would be horrendously against everything you've probably ever been brainwashed into thinking was the best way to handle this. And I say this for MPs and for establishment people and for people blackmailed, bribed, or born into evil everywhere, that while you're still breathing, even if you are almost completely demonically possessed at the ravaging stage of evil, I still believe that while there's breath in your body and a merciful God, that you can stop and get help and own up and do what you can to protect the children and to rescue the children and to just let the children have a chance, the chance that maybe you didn't have. Because even if a global disapproval and hate, and rage, outrage came at you like a tsunami, it would still pale in comparison to eternity having not done the right thing. I promise you. How many? Oh, okay. Right. So don't want to get heavy. So we're going to take a 2.5-minute break. Please don't switch off. Make a cup of tea, coffee, whatever. But please, if you feel in your heart anything stirring, please put something into this network, which gives me the opportunity to just spend a couple of hours with you a week and to speak about things that are important. And we'll take a break and we'll move on to the next subject when you come back. Thanks.
Conscious Consumer Network was designed to create a live broadcast TV network for free and independent media and has been live on the air since the 1st of January 2015. CCN gets millions of minutes watched every month and is viewed in over 140 countries, having produced around 1,400 shows and counting.
And you know, it's very hard to get on mainstream media, of course, the corporate media that's getting tighter and more monopolized and more restrictive for any outside information.
The live broadcasts are free to view and all shows are archived in high definition on YouTube. CCN plays host to a stellar team of broadcasters and producers, all of whom rely on the network to get their message and information out to the world. CCN has continued to evolve, constantly seeking to create greater media usage and opportunities for both broadcasters and viewers, including supporting projects such as the newly launched consciouscommunities.org, a brand new social media platform that is free to use and has been created for those dedicated to the pursuit of freedom, justice, peace, and sustainability to come together and co-create the solutions to a better world. Due to the constant heavy usage, we are in need of replenishing and replacing of key hardware and infrastructural wear and tear. This includes the fixing and replacing of parts of the live broadcast equipment system, as well as increasing storage capacities for content and projects. Without this, CCN and its affiliate projects will simply not be able to continue. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded project, and it is up to you all to keep CCN on the air. Support our funding drive with a donation or become a monthly pledger. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.
Okay, people, welcome back, and thank you for sitting with me through that kind of difficult update, but very important. Please share it when it comes out on archive or YouTube. So, yeah. Let's find something. There's always, I just feel like lifting things a bit. You can't stay in that place all the time. Yeah. I think we'll have a creativity break. I love music, and that's often a way I kind of transition from looking at stuff that's hard to look at. But bear with me, and I'll just get some creative writing to share, I think, just to lift us back to a place of, we can do this or optimism, or it's not all doom and gloom. No, I'm not in that, I can't see myself. Let's see. Let's get this back. Where are we? There we are. Yeah, I'm making strides to getting a kind of studio built again, and filing systems, and all the tech working, and people sort of come stream helping, which is great, and always, like I said, we follow up between shows, which generates some real excitement. I think I want to give a nod to another show on this channel, Unspun, which did a show last week about Aldous Huxley, and MK Ultra, and that linked up with research this side of the water, and then also some other people with very high level intel got in touch, and we've started disseminating some research there as well. And the actual nuts and bolts of research is hugely important because people are so evidence-based, but we're all good at different things, and I'm more of a bigger picture kind of perspective on the whole thing. That's my part of things, but I also have a lot of details, and possibly avoid going there too much and keep promising I will. Anyway, just one little irritation. There's my graduation photo from the University of Warwick, and I can't be bothered to just do that. I mean, I will on my website, I will put up all my certificates and validations and everything, but to me, life's so urgent at the moment. I come back to that Catherine Tate, that's the comedian I was talking about, like face bothered, like it really, you know, I think we all need to be getting up every day and thinking, what's the best use of my time and my focus and my mood and my energy today? Because I just have a sense that the times are urgent. I'm not propagating fear porn, but at the same time, feels like times are urgent. And, you know, we need to re-evaluate and have short-term, you know, we used to laugh and say you need a 5-year plan. Well, I'd be more inclined to have a 5-week plan at the moment. You know, keep expanding it, but it's not a bad way to live. It's really not a bad way to live, as if every day counted, because it really does. So see if we can find anything. No, nothing's jumping out because it's not filed properly. I've got my lovely IKEA filing system, but I haven't filed everything yet, so they're all in piles on the floor waiting for me to do the fiddly bits, writing out, you know, the labels. I wish I had Ashganet Nani. I wish you were like you were back to Matt. You were just amazing. And if you're listening, thank you for being the best PA ever. And oh boy, could I use some help like that now? But we get there. So, yeah, I'll just keep finding random poetry that I wrote at uni before the internet days when we used to scribble on a bit of paper in a cafe. So I'll just read this one. It says recession, suspension, and it was the 2nd of September 1977. Stars scattered at random in a big breast of sky. Fusillade of feelings falling deeper within, boomerang with no impetus, impotent. Peace in love could be glory to see beyond, yet not attain, brings more pain. The sea, the roar and noise of nature, seeming to soak up the galaxy, screaming silence. To bury myself deep under the sand, or sink in the sea and still breathe and watch. Come sleep. I might have shared that in another show, but it's okay. Yeah, that I do believe on one level I was very much, you know, referring back to in hospital times where I was paralyzed from the neck down for protracted periods of time, I believe, with no consent. But then I was a child up to the age of 5, so there is a question as to whether my father consented. And that's being investigated currently. There's an investigation being undertaken by Avon and Somerset Police in cooperation with Wiltshire Police, looking into the abuse of my own family and also the medical no consent abuse in military hospitals and secular hospitals, and also a military paedophile ring. So there was a bit, I'm kind of optimistic, but it's hard to get your hopes up. And I was a bit discouraged. I get an update about once a month, which is more than some people get. And I was told not to overwhelm them with evidence, which I hadn't thought I was doing, but I was when there was breakthroughs in research or there was corroboration from other survivors. I was forwarding it to the detective sergeant and the detective constable. And the last update said, oh, please don't overwhelm us because it's very time consuming. And at first I felt like a naughty and thought, oh yes, I mustn't just give them too much information. And I know with previous court cases, keep adding more info. That might be the reason. Then I listened that night to a really good Richie Allen show with a survivor called Sam, who's awesome a girl. And she talked about the same thing where she had been told that not to inundate with evidence. They didn't have time or something. And it kind of grounded me. I'll try and post that link as well to that show because it's awesome and shocking as well. But it kind of put me back in that place of, well, why, sometimes the law's an arse. And if the law's not working, serving justice, change the law. Don't change the outcome for redress or remedy or justice or stopping evil. Change the bloody law. The law's supposed to serve. Not be used as an excuse. Like Brian Clare was saying something about one case he was told, oh, we were supposed to have completed investigations in 2, and so it took us 3, so sorry, technicality, but it's thrown out. What? And then another time he was told, oh no, well you've been online talking, so that's prejudiced. The outcome and a very good argument Ben put forward, Ben Emily Jones, was like, oh, hello, what about the O.J. Simpson trial? What about the Oscar Pistorius trial? These high-level trials were not thrown out because the world was watching. So I think it is a case of, civil servants are there to serve the population, and the law is there. There's a lovely scripture that says the law is not supposed to be a burden to beat you with, but a banquet to feast on. These are structures that are supposed to help societies work and protect their most vulnerable. So if they're not fit for purpose, bloody well change them and have a bit of common sense. So just see, I'm getting high horsey again. I don't want to get high horsey. I just want to see. The other thing that struck me when I was filing stuff was the kind of curriculum, even back in the late 70s, at University of Warwick. It really was a centre of excellence for social engineering. Like corporations and the eugenics crowd and the population control crowd and all the rest of it would just feed down to the academics what they wanted society to think and believe, and then academia would churn us out. It's quite shocking. It's quite shocking as well, because I was 21 when I went to university. I worked 3 years in London first, but most people go to university at 17 or 18, and you're so naive. And we particularly not so much America, but certainly the British culture have this deference to authority. So if your professor is telling you something, you kind of believe them. The same way our parents would think, if a policeman said something, it's got to be true. Or, if the doctor said you have to take statins or bloody chemotherapy or whatever, you think, oh, I have to. And so it shocks me that even I didn't think this is strange. I mean, a couple of times I did think things were absurd, but I still had that sort of deference for authority. So, God, the old faithful typewriter. My sister Fiona, who's dead, she died on May Day last year. She gave me an orange typewriter, and I used to go around Europe with my little orange portable typewriter. And I lived, after I finished university, I lived for a year in, first of all in Marbella, and then I moved out after a few months living with Princess Honey Child Hohenlohe, on whom the movie, I never remember the title. She was the honey that was played by Ursula Andress coming out of the ocean. It's a Goldfinger anyway. I'll try and remember that. Anyway, I lived with her in Marbella. I was just writing her life story, and I lived there 3 months until I then decided I'd rather have my own place, and I lived in Estepona, and had a little Seat which went on fire. But I also used to visit a boyfriend that worked with the German Foreign Office, Holger Fichte. Vielleicht ist noch, perhaps he's still alive. He was living in Würzburg. He retired to Würzburg the last time I saw him. And so he was stationed in Casablanca. So about once a month, I suppose, maybe, I don't know, about once a month, I used to go from Estepona in Costa del Sol to Casablanca. I used to kind of get a coach down to Algeciras and then the ferry across to Tangier. And I always had my little orange portable typewriter, and I always got searched. And it was like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm a journalist. Where are you going? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and then get on the train then to Casablanca and then stay for a while and then decide I couldn't cope. I wasn't equipped. I wasn't equipped for, I don't know. I mean, I did stay married for 10 years, but mostly other than that, and a lot of that was just gritting my teeth and shoulders to the wheel and let's do this married with children lark. But most of my relationships lasted about a year and a half, and then would hit a scary part, whether it's commitment or proposals or, you know, awkward challenges. And I just used to run. I mean, I just used to bolt. I've had this lovely guy helping me set up the studio, Dan English, brilliant troubleshooter tech guy. And I was telling him that, a guy that proposed to me, I had 11 proposals, I shared that previously, serious proposals. I'm sure a lot of them were engineered, but there was a guy in Dunleary or Bray, Kevin O'Reilly, proposed to me, and I said yes, and then he said, I can't remember, this was about May, and my birthday was coming up in the June, and I can't remember if he said, shall we get married on your birthday, or shall we, must have been that, because he wanted us to get engaged right then and there. So he proposed to me, and I said yes, and then he went to buy champagne, and I absolutely panicked and rang his best friend. When he got back with the champagne, I had my suitcases packed, and I was like, I just ran. I just got on a boat. So this was in Ireland. This was in Bray, and that night I was on the boat to England. Like, you know, oh God, forgive me. And then not long after that, I emigrated to California, and I think after I'd been there a year, he was doing sound engineer on the Rolling Stones tour, and he looked me up, and we met, and he just kind of forgave me, you know. I just apologized and said, look, nothing personal. It's just me, a commitment or something. And he'd since married, and so, you know, he was happy, but it's like pretty shocking. So I can't remember how that started. Oh, my typewriter, that's where that all started, yeah. My little orange portable, whichever the name of it was. So written on that, I'll read one more poem. It's called The Barrier. ever so faded, and it's, oh, this is exciting as well. It's just helped ground me because I forget. This is what dissociation does. This is what MK Ultra, this was the intention of it, was to compartmentalize everything so that we forget. And that's why I'm trying to get into the discipline of not interviewing somebody every week, or even not dwelling just on external issues every week, because I find myself, late in my 5th decade of life, still with all this information and intel, which I quote unquote forget. So it's really healthy. Cathy O'Brien talks about journaling, but it's really healthy to go through old papers and writing and diaries, and because it just jogs your memory. If you are in the phase of, as they call it, deprogramming, it really helps. So on the back of my, it is big K, music management. That was my sister's venture, my eldest sister, who's worked for the council for decades, still does, community outreach officer. But back then, I'm trying to think, was it before or after university? I think it was after. She'd been offered a job by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra to accompany her to Africa on tour. She got offered the job to go with, I don't know what, as an admin or something. And she ended up, she loved music. She was a DJ at 12. She had her own radio show at 12. She got the only interview of Donovan, who was on the Rock of Gibraltar for his 21st. He wouldn't give any of the grown-up journalists an interview. He just gave my sister an interview when she was 12. Anyway, so when she went with the Philharmonic Orchestra, I think she went 2 years in a row, but because she loves music, she really got into the African high life and Makossa music and decided to bring it back to London. And that was the days of Ken Livingstone and festivals in the parks, and it was kind of exciting. And so I got the funding. I think I must have been still working at Bank of Credit and Commerce International, because I went next door to my National Westminster Bank manager and I asked to borrow a few thousand to help my sister start this music management business. And he just said yes, really easily. I said, why did you just say yes, just like that? He was so lovely, because he used to say to me, this was before e-banking, he used to say to me, Angela, I could give you a bank statement every day, and I could give you £1 million overdraft, and you would still go £1 million and one overdrawn. It's adorable. But when I said to him at the end of this sort of scare meeting where I'd taken a business proposal for the music management company, it was all beautifully done, and then he just said yes to the loan. I said, why? And he said a lovely thing. He said, because I've worked for 40 years in this bank, culminating in being a manager, I've hated 39 years every day. And that was deep. That was sad. I've got 2 sons, and I hope, not just sons, daughters, I hope that none of my children ever become a wage slave like that and do a job because they should, or because it pays the mortgage. The other thing about money, when I first went to California, I couldn't believe how long hours people worked. I remember when I got diverted from my acting goal and Hollywood thing, beautifully diverted with my daughter, I got a job in an Irish-American restaurant, paying rent, and I remember watching, there was a waiter there, he might have been Romanian or something. He drove a Porsche, he wore a Rolex, and he worked 80 hours a week plus. And I said, what the hell is the point of your Porsche and your Rolex when you're just working all the time? What, you're like driving to work with your Rolex out the window and then working 80 hours? What, crazy. And it just reminds me of another story about the wage slave thing. We can all do what we're passionate about, and then it doesn't seem so much like work. But even then, I think we have to discipline ourselves not to burn out. I feel guilty when I don't do something for a day, I feel guilty. I don't know about you, but I think as a generation we were programmed to achieve and strive, and if you're not striving in your passion, there's something very soul destroying about that, and maybe that's the point. But there was this lovely, I'm just chatting, I like this better than following plan. There was this lovely sort of parable story I heard, which reminded me of Culatra, a little island in Portugal off Olhão, the Algarve. And at that time, possibly still, there was no electricity on the island, no cars. You could only get there on a ferry, little fisherman ferry. And there was just one bar, and it was mostly a Portuguese holiday island. And the fishermen used to come, the one bar around 5 o'clock used to just set up tables on the beach outside the bar and just set up tables with salad and crusty bread and red wine and white wine and wait for the fishermen to come in with the catch, and the barbecues would be all fired up and waiting for them. And the fishermen would come in with a catch and they'd just clean the fish and cook them, and then it was just party time. It was just, so this little story about striving was where somebody found some fishermen, say, for example, like that on an island, and said, oh, do you know what, if you doubled your fleet and increased your hours and hired a few team members, you could quadruple your business income. And so for whatever reason, they went along with it. And so they got a bigger, better fleet. They got somebody else to clean the fish and somebody else to prepare them, and they moved off the island to do it in a more profitable market, to sell their goods, and they all quadrupled and more their income and their business. And then in this imaginary parable, they were asked after 20 years of this growth, you've reached a real pinnacle, what would you like to do? And they said, well, we'd like to retire on a little island where there's just a few of us, and we come in with the fish and the barbecue's on, and our women folk and children are running around happily, and we'll all have dinner. And so it was the futility of that whole, my hair's, sorry about that, Neelu was. It was the whole futility of that whole striving, like for what? Literally, and I think it's, I can't see myself on here, but never mind, doesn't matter, does it? Jean-Paul Sartre, that'll do. The existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre, that was part of the curriculum at Warwick. And one version of hell is that, and there's several versions of hell that were put around. One was that you could never see a mirror, and one was that you were in a room with the person you least wanted to spend time with eternally. But I actually believe the one about fire and brimstone, sulphur, burning lakes, and that's not fear-born either. Because it's by faith that we're saved, and that by grace, not by works, lest any man should boast. So that was a roundabout way of introducing another poem. We're nearly there. Let me just read another poem, and then we'll round up and see. So this one's called The Warrior. Beware persecution, for you may fall next. Wow. Beware condemnation, for I may go vexed. To see a child excluded, outraged in pain. No danger, or no longer included. No games to play, no toys to hold, identity burdened. Wow, my goodness, people should write, because even when you don't know what you're writing the truth. Beware persecution born out of bitterness, for I see no solution in finding your own toys to go hide with them alone at last. The self-same isolation this time self-inflicted. So the other side, on the other side of the fence, what there is to do is take the fence down, dismantle the fortress, burn the barrier, and share. One love. Wow. Wow. I will just come back to my notes to see if there really was anything that I would be annoyed about if I hadn't included. I hope to have a panel discussion next week. I'm working on it. Of 2 or 3 or possibly 4 people, researchers, human beings like you and I, joining some pretty incredible dots, again, evidence-based. So, and the amazing thing about this channel as well, CCN, without being too in love with it, but up to 16 can be on these live streaming shows. So it's awesome, you know, and a couple of them may choose audio only for security reasons because of the level of disclosure. And that's perfectly doable. So it's just incredible that you can get, you know, this technology and Melanie and Biggie and the team just so devoted. Melanie was a director at Coca-Cola, and we all know that's a corporation, but it's no small feat to have worked at senior levels in that kind of corporation. And it's rather than judge that, like I used to work for Bank of Credit and Commerce International, like, you know, it went down spectacularly. It was absolutely CIA run and funded and laundering and God knows what. But rather than pointing fingers at superficial things, isn't it awesome that Melanie's brought her skills and invested them into something like this conscious consumer network where broadcasters, researchers, human beings can have up to 16 people sit and talk, or just one, like just me, like I'm going to do every other week, just spend some time and share some info and ask for, you know, you to participate in whatever way you can. That's awesome, and that's exciting to me. So just check if there's anything else. Yeah, I kind of updated my investigation. Oh, the other thing worth saying, I am good. The next one-on-one session we do, which if things go to plan will be the week after next, I'm going to do some speaking in French and some in German, not to show off because I'm rusty in both, but because I was severely abused in Germany in childhood, and although the perpetrator I remember is dead, but I do have a sense that he left a trail of victims behind him. So I'm going to give a shout out to Germany. And then the French thing, I'm pretty sure my abuser, I never reported, well, I tried to report him to Wiltshire and Avon and Somerset Police last year, but there was talk of them passing that info to Interpol, but I don't think it's happened. So I'm going to do a disclosure in French and an appeal for other survivors of victims in German in the show after next. And yeah, the thing worth noting, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but if the law's wrong, change it, is that Avon and Somerset Police have put it in writing to me that the Irish Gardaí are not cooperating with them in the investigation. That's pretty shocking. So not just because of that, but it just prompts me that there's a whole load of intel I would like to share. God, thank you for your angels that protect me and my children and my loved ones and my home, which I do believe there's some skullduggery going on about my home. I own my modest council house in Ireland outright, and yet there's some shenanigans going on with Angela, somebody or other, the the government employee and the council. She's asked for the third time for proof that I own my home. I've given a copy of my deeds, my title deeds, my land registry twice. So on the third request, I'm starting to smell a rat, and I have heard of social workers, whistleblowers and others, you know, just having outrageous skullduggery going on in an attempt to bankrupt them and throw them into survival and anxiety and poverty and so on. So I will be doing an Ireland show. So we'll see if it might be, or probably a good idea to do Ireland, France and Germany all together in one show. But, you know, things change every week, so obviously we'll keep track of what we're tracking already. So, yeah, I am willing to provide evidence and do an affidavit in support of Sabine and Neelu. I'm even willing to fly over if that helps. I've written question mark, apologise to Ella. You know, I don't regret voicing concerns that a lot of people had and nobody wanted to say, except perhaps in little PMs. But as I've reviewed a lot of the interviews over the past year in preparation for this trial of whistleblowers, I feel a little bit badly that I cast aspersions perhaps on her and Abraham. I've asked questions, and in an ideal world they would have just answered them. That's what I like, and that's what people can do with me. If you've got a question, why's your name Disney, or how come this, or I heard that, ask me. I've got no problem with that. Paul Maguire said that, and I actually want to ask him a few questions. Paul Maguire makes some really good videos, but I have some questions. We'll address that, but I do. I'm open. I'm absolutely open. If it's not malicious or time wasting, just ask me. So I think in reviewing a lot of the interviews and a lot of the evidence and actually going over the superb document prepared by Ella and Abraham for regarding the International Police Complaints Commission, it's phenomenal. So, you know, if I was out of line, I apologise. The bottom line is and always should be that I believe the children and that they deserve a full and thorough investigation. So that was on my list. And challenge Paul Maguire. We'll leave that for next time. It's not malicious, Paul. It's just some questions I had. Yeah. Another thing we can do in these less formal bi-weekly shows is, and I'd actually like to do this, is to actually share the sort of follow-up emails and inbox messages and contacts, corroboration or expansion of a field that we've been looking into, kind of share the feedback that's coming in from the show. Thank you very much to the people that have contacted me since this show started airing, and also for those that have contacted me with information. I really welcome it. I can't always reply instantly, and as the lady I was talking about at the beginning of the show can vouch for, sometimes I will let you down. I will absolutely want and intend to do something, and I might fall short of that, for which I apologise. But I think ongoingly there's so many of it. All we can do is point people towards their own journey. I can't walk your journey for you. I can't get you justice. I can't get you redress. I can't save anybody, but I can point you to someone who can. And I can just, it makes me happy to, his name's Jesus, it makes me happy to see people empowered in their own journey. You know, sometimes I can hardly stagger through my own, let alone carry anybody else, except for my children and my grandchildren. And even then I fall short sometimes, but I get really excited when I see somebody suicidal get a new zest for life, or at least a new will to live, or at least the strength to keep going, because we are not one, we are many. Almost at the top of the 2 hours. Lots of good feedback. from, I've written Timelines, Cash, Water, Feast of Trumpets. I can't remember what I meant by that, but when I remember what I meant, I'll address that too. Friends lists, yes, I'll sort of say something coded. Don't judge a book by its cover. Pray for discernment, or if you don't pray, look deeper than superficially, because things are not always as they seem. Sometimes one keeps one's friends close and one's enemies closer. And sometimes even the likes of the Rothschilds have family members that want to break free. I've been contacted by some. So yeah, just those that need to will understand what I'm saying there. Yeah, and then I think the final thing was I was listening to a couple of people that have spent, again, decades and decades being watchmen on the wall or warning people or whistleblowing or podcasting and broadcasting and so on. And they talk about periodically wanting to throw the towel in and then not being able to, and just saying this fire is shut up in my bones and I can't rest until I speak again. So you know, I don't just want to speak, I want to act as well, and I'm going to be hitting the road fairly soon, because I don't just campaign online. I do hit the road, and I love those trips, whether it be for court cases or meeting survivors or my own legal proceedings or, you know, family, whatever it is, but I hit the road. And to me, there's no greater honour than actually getting in the trenches and meeting, you know, others who are still alive and still speaking and still fighting. Shout out for Tom Dunn, who's releasing a movie called Detestable on the subject of satanic ritual abuse. Sadly, Hampstead at one point was going to be included, and I think the explosion of division and chaos amongst those disseminating the truth put some people off coming and taking a look and highlighting it, because it's hard to tell the woods from the trees. And I hope we've learned that lesson this time around. But he nonetheless just about to release a movie about satanic ritual abuse, which there have to be, you know, more power to it. So that's Tom Dunn. And Rupert is heading for England, Rupert of Heights, Rupert fame. And so he has a GoFundMe, as I've said before. He's not charged. You know, at one point I asked for help from a very accomplished private investigator who wanted 5,000 retainer just before he even started doing the level of research we needed. And we don't have a fund for Hampstead. We're all doing what we can with what we can. So if anybody wants to help Rupert with the last few hundred on his itinerary, we're just covering his costs and his very modest daily living, him to document and carry back to his audience in America a perspective of what's going on with England, what's going on with London, what's going on with Hampstead, what's going on with the UK. And it's not just the UK. You know, as I keep saying, this harks back to McMartin and Presidio and so on and so forth. So, oh God, I've gone over time. Biggie? Oh, okay, we're over time. Thank you for watching, listening, and please share, and please, wherever you feel led, but please contribute somewhere. Please contribute to the channel, to wherever you feel led, please. But we need to free up the money. We need to start giving, receiving, and there's nothing dishonourable about that. Thank you, and talk to you again next Monday. God bless.